Good evening. Good evening and welcome. We will go ahead and begin open session. We will start with item 3, general matters. Item 3.01, the land acknowledgement statement, which I will read now. We acknowledge that the Franklin-McKinley School District and our schools are located in the Muwekma Ohlone Nation, the sovereign nation and original people of the skies, land, and waters where we learn and work. The Muwekma Ohlone people are the stewards of these lands and of the teaching and learning that comes from and responds to the needs of the land and the people who share it. May our daily lives and work, learning, teaching, and community engagement support the evolving vision of the Muwekma Ohlone for their community and these lands. We will now go to item 3.02, the flag salute. Board Clerk Rodriguez, can you lead us in the flag salute today?
Okay, please stand for the flag salute.
Thank you.
Pledge of allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Clerk Rodriguez. We will now go to item 3.03, approve, disapprove additions to the agenda. Hearing none, we will go to item 3.04, approve, disapprove order of the agenda.
Yes, Madam President, we would like to table item 602, local academic data presentation, to the December 14th board meeting.
So item 6.02 will be moved to the December board meeting. Any other changes to the order of the agenda? Hearing none, we will go to item 3.05, report of action taken in closed session. Superintendent Cruz.
The board approved to a 4-0 vote the October 26, 2021 closed session minutes. There is no other action to report.
Thank you, Superintendent Cruz. We will now go to item 4, oral communications. Beginning with item 4.01, members of the public may address the board on any issue within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board or agenda items. Members of the public may also address the board on consent items before the board's consideration of the items. In accordance with Board Bylaw 9323, individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each unless otherwise stipulated. No action can be taken on any agenda items at this time. Questions may be referred to the administration or put on a future agenda. Do we have any oral communications?
So, Madam President, we are now accepting public comment in person. And for those that cannot make it in person, they are requested to submit it in writing for us to read it out for the public record. We do not have any requests at this time.
Thank you. We will now go to item 5, public hearing. We have item 5.01, the public hearing on the executive summary for the Educator Effectiveness Grant. So I'll go ahead and open the public hearing at this time.
And we do have a presentation for the board. This will be an action item at the next board meeting. So I'm not sure if you want us to do the presentation while the public hearing is open, or do you want to close it and then have the presentation?
Well, it's later on tonight's. It's item 6.04.
Okay. We normally try to put it together, but I didn't realize that we have a separate. That's fine.
So hearing that there's no comments at this time, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And we do know that there's an executive summary later on today's agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will go to item 6, information, discussion, and/or action items. We have item 6.01, the fiscal year 2020 through 2021 annual financial reports, the audit reports.
Good
Can you
evening.
hear me?
In your packet, there are four documents, and then today I'm going to present three reports. And I'm Joyce Peters from I. Bailey, the independent auditors. For the board communication letters, it's a standard letter, and there's any modifications. This year, we didn't have any unrecorded adjustments. Like last year, we do record your fair market value. This year, we evaluated, and it's not material to your financial statement, so we pass on it. And then there's no disagreements. There's no any arguments on our audit. Is very smoothly. Your business department is very cooperative and very efficient to give us the stuff. Especially it's a lot of it's mostly is generated through the remote auditing, so they have to upload into our server and scanning, and they are very efficient. So I really appreciate that. Okay, for the reports first, I'll go through the big report first, which is the district's audit. This year, the report is consistent with the prior year. If you don't have time to read through it, the management analysis, discussion and analysis is like the first few pages. There's a graph and pie charts, and it's comparison of this year and prior year. So it gives you really good comprehensive informations about the district. And then also, they also talk about a little bit about the future projections. In the reports, we give out three opinions, and on page 87, it's the summary of our auditor's result. For the financial statement, we give it a modified report. A modified means that the report is a standard. There's no modification. There's no qualification or exceptions in the language. So it's a clean audit. We didn't report any deficiencies or material weakness on your financial statement. For the federal award, this year we test more programs because any programs you receive from federal greater than $750,000, we consider a major program. And this year you got a lot of COVID-19 related grants, which is approximately 15 million. So we have to select all those. So we actually test gear, ESSER, and the learning loss, the mitigation, and child and adult care food program. And of all those programs, we didn't find any exceptions. So it's also a clean audit. For the state compliance this year, the state take out a lot of programs like class size reduction after school program. There's some, and then they added something different like attendance and distant learning. So a lot of program, the documented a little weird, but we didn't find any exceptions. Your district has been following this compliance very well. So it's the state compliance is also a clean audit on the district's report. Any questions before I move on to bond audit?
Any questions?
Yeah, it's good because it's clean. So usually, unless there's a findings of people will start have questions. Next one, I would go to the Measure H, which is 2006 election. Of this report, the district spent 11.3 million approximately in 2021 fiscal year, leaving the ending fund balance of 12.1 million for this year to spend. In these reports, usually we bind together, actually it's the two reports. One is financial audit, and it's a clean audit. There's no audit adjustments. And in the back, starting from probably page 11, is a performance audit. For performance audit, we usually select a lot of expenditures and see if the spending is agreed to bond language or the district oversight approved projects. During the year for the performance audit, we selected 8.5 million expenditures. We actually pull out 8.5 million invoices, and then that's composed of 76% of your total spending. We didn't find any exceptions, and we didn't make any audit adjustment either. Next one is the major R. This is the new election of 2000 and in 2001 and 2021 and 2020 and 21. The district issued the first issuance and received 26.8 million bond proceeds. During the year, the district spent 4.8 million expenditures, and we audit. On the last pages, it says we select a sample of 4.4, which is 91% of the total expenditures. We didn't find any exceptions. Any questions?
Board members, any questions? Well, thank you for sharing the good news and all the work to put together these reports. It's always nice to hear that, that there's no findings and that the business department is doing well. So thank you, Joyce, again, for being here this evening and sharing the findings with us as well. Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to echo those comments in terms of the work that the administrative team, Jason, Joanne, and everybody in business that make sure that we're, compliant with the intent of the funds and that, they're being categorized in the right way. It's an entire team effort, but, certainly led by Jason and Joanne over in business services. So thank you. I'm not sure if did Jason join? Yeah, so Jason is virtual today for us. So I'm not sure, Jason, did you want to say anything?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to echo the comments Superintendent Cruz just said. It is definitely a team effort, not only from the team within business services, but also at the school sites, the secretaries, the principals, making sure that policies and procedures are followed by employee staff throughout the year. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who's participated in making this a clean audit for the year 2021.
Thank you all so much again, and thank you, Joyce, for being here. All right. With that, we will, and do we, okay, this is information only. All right.
Jason, is there a need for the board to accept the audit or I know that it's listed as just an information and discussion?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, you do not need to take board action on it. It's just a recommendation to accept the information as presented. But if you wanted to have a formal action, you can certainly do that.
I just want to make sure that there was no need for it to be officially approved.
Correct.
Thank you, Jason. We will go to item 6.02, which has been tabled for the next board meeting. So we will go ahead and go to item 6.03, the child nutrition update.
Yes, at this time, Lori and Elaine should be here and they're going to present last year, 2021, which obviously was not a normal year for all of us, and also talk about what going forward, our goals as a district in 21-22.
Well, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Excuse me. So we had made some adjustments on the prior presentations. So slides 12 through 17 have been moved to the appendix, which reference universal meals and the AB 130. And so what you're looking at up here is going to be a little bit different than what you see in board docs. So thank you for letting us present to you tonight. So let's see. That's our agenda. And this is the virtual learning and hybrid for Franklin-McKinley. If you look at the curbside meals, breakfast and lunch, supper and snacks, they served a lot of meals through the COVID. The food service staff was dedicated, they were committed, they were unwavering and devoted to feeding our Franklin community. And I think the numbers there speak volume for the work that they have done. And then that's just a picture of some of the staff over at Santee. And that's another one at Meadows serving curbside meals. And then this is our daily average meals participation. And you could see that the breakfast is at 48% and our lunch is at 69%. With our declining enrollment, and the enrollment was used from the POS system. And then seamless summer universal feeding. These are some of the things that we focused on. One of the items was we focused on school site food service staff training for COVID on how we had to be safe and items were prepackaged and how to serve things and make sure that we are following all the CDE guidelines in the county health department. And then now this slide, I'm going to turn it over to Elaine. Thank you.
Good evening, board. So to piggyback on the reimbursement, the seamless summer feeding, the rates went from in the years 21, 22. We kind of did a graph for those up to 22 to 23. As you can see, for breakfast in 21, 22, we're at 271. 22, 23, we're projected to be at 225. And then in 22, 23, 24 at 231. And the same for lunch. As you can see, it starts off and then it goes down and then it goes back up. Same with the supper and snack as well. Thank you. Historical and current federal and state reimbursements. Again, we try to do a graph from about 5 years, and you can see the rates again, how they kind of fluctuate. If you see 2018, 2019 to 2019, 20, and they're variable. And we go up 3%. Then we go down 3% based on the years. And again, for lunch, supper, and snack. And I'll turn it over to Lori.
So parent awareness. This is how we've communicated out to the district. The food was available through our curbside service. We did household letters, websites, text messages, and social media, and posters and flyers, and community partnerships to help get the parents to know that there are meals available for them. And then barriers and challenges. Getting the word out that all the meals are free has been a challenge, so that many still think that they have to qualify or pay for their meals. And then, of course, district labor shortages and staff fatigue. It's hitting everywhere in our department as well. We currently have, prior COVID, we had about 7 substitutes that would work for our department. And now we only have 1 that has come back. So, it's hit us, the staff, in that way. And then the supply chain issues, I'm going to give that over back to Elaine.
So as we all know, during COVID, especially, the last year, there's been a lot of supply chain shortages. Again, our district is affected by it, just like any other district around us. Shortage with, the workers, the truck drivers sitting at the docks. It's just really challenging right now. I think the step that both Lori and I took when COVID hit, we went ahead and ordered a bunch of food ahead of time. So we have enough food in our warehouse to continue to feed and work with our vendors. So, and we'll get updates if they're going to be short on something like that. And we definitely, communicate it to our staff and everything. But for the most part, we've been blessed to just not have too many shortages for the staff and for our students, to where we're be able to serve 3 meals as opposed to 5 that we've done pre-COVID. And then the next one is just our current program menu offering. Again, we don't use any trans fat, no fried foods, all poultry and milk. Meals are 30% or less calories from fat or less. And we maximize our local produce vendors and minimal processed foods. And a complete, this is a picture of our complete meal. There's 5 components that are required, but we can take 3, you can take 3 out of the 5 components, and usually 9 times out of 10, our entree is 2 components. So there's 2 components there. We offer fruit and vegetables, half cup of fruit or vegetables, or they can have all 5, and milk is optional. Okay. And then again, we use all of our government commodity products, cheese, beef, chicken. Again, Lori and I sit down and we work together, and we put the orders together for the process for our commodities to see what we're going to bring in and everything. All our ground beefs are 100% lean, no fillers. All our hot dog lunch meats are turkey, 100% nitrate free. All our cheese are no fillers at all. And our canned products and stuff like that, we use all the legumes and everything that are required for our students. Again, all bread is whole grain, pasta is whole grain. Our rice is brown rice. We only use under the USDA and all their recommendations, and all of our cereals are grain, as well as our bars. And then meal components, fruits and vegetables, 51% again of our purchases are our local vendors within 250 miles radius. And canned fruits are packed in juice, no high fruit corn syrup, and our milk. We use our local vendors also. And the partnership that we've had with the district since 1989, we share our goals. Lori and I and my supervisor, Martha, who's here tonight, we sit down and we look at the district goals. We go over the district goals. Sodexo's job and my job is to execute those goals, quantify the programs, and then the district decides if it's affordable. And we come together as a team. And the next one is just historical revenue and cost that we want to share with you. Again, from 2018-19, as you can see in 2018, there was a loss, and then 2019 we had a surplus, and then 2021 COVID, we had a huge surplus because we received COVID money from the state. And then again, budgeted revenue and costs, again, the same numbers. If you look at 22-23, with no decline in enrollment, all COVID waivers will be removed. 3% is the standard that we go by to increase. And then you'll see it again in 23 and 24. And again, those are projections because things change every single day. And I think that's it. Any questions?
Thank you all for being here.
Yeah, if I could, Laura, could you remind us of these, I guess it's easier, which schools are not currently on our with 100% free meals, outside of the fact that we are now everybody's because of COVID, but your team applied for universal meals at our schools, which I think it was 2 schools that didn't get it.
It was 3, I believe. I'm sorry? But they will be next year qualified for CEP. But because of the universal meals, correct, Martha? Yes.
So everybody will be 100%.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Yes.
But the 3 that because of the low free and reduced count prior to this was, I think, Stonegate, Ramblewood, and CCA. Is that correct?
No, I think it was Sherikawa.
That's correct.
Yes. Yeah.
So outside of the fact that we were COVID at one point, all the other schools were going to have a universal meal because of the high percent of free and reduced.
What is the CEP?
I'm sorry.
The CEP?
It's yeah, community eligibility program where everybody eats for free. There's no charging of anything, so you have no debt. Everybody comes through and gets all meals free.
And that's permanent.
Mhm.
And it's,
Well, it was for 4 years, I believe, that we had applied for.
and it's all federally funded, federal and state funded.
California's new legislation, which is in the appendix. Everybody will be for
And so statewide is permanent.
Yes,
statewide it's for all schools.
Yes.
Public schools.
Federal funding is 4 years.
yes,
That's a good thing.
yeah, it is.
Yes. Board members, additional?
I mean, part of this, it takes away the stigma
Mhm.
of children having to get in the line of the free and reduced line or having to submit. It has a lot to do with taking away the stigma and also the fact that the federal government does not take into account that the cost of living in areas like the Silicon Valley is
Yep.
not comparable to other places in the country. So the state has to step in and sort of recognize that.
Board member Martinez? Oh, go ahead.
Adding to that, though, that's where that big drop in revenue next year, because the state right now has not ponied up enough, I'd say. So you saw that 50 cents a meal next year in revenue will be going down here. The intent and their hope is that you're going to save some administrative costs because not having to collect applications, all these things to account for a meal, they're hoping to save. But the way the state of California is looking at it now is your CEP will get your max from the feds, but you will see a decrease. And that's why your revenue went down $900,000 next year on the graphs in there, is because the same meal, you're going to be paid about 50 cents a meal less as it stands right now. But obviously there's a lot of people complaining about that. So we might, and the state has a pretty big surplus right now. So we might see that change.
Board member Martinez?
Thank you. I don't know if anybody knows, but I know that when COVID first hit back in 2019, families probably had a balance. I think back then we were using something called Titan, Family Titan or something like that. Are there families that still have balances that maybe have been sitting there during the whole pandemic that ought to be returned to them, or?
No, we had worked through and everybody that had balances on their accounts were refunded
Oh,
their money.
Clerk Rodriguez?
So I noticed that with 2021, the meal served went up, right? So I'm trying to think of logistics wise, when you're handing out the meals, are they handed out only to the number of children in the family, or are they given to everybody in the family?
At the meal distribution, when we
Yeah.
were doing curbside, it was anybody from 0 to 18.
Got it. So that means that, so through FMSD, if there were high school students, they were also given a meal, which is
Mhm.
probably why the meals served went up a little bit.
Yes,
Or a lot, actually.
yes. It
Okay,
was
so,
to anybody in the community. They didn't even have to go to our schools.
right.
They were here under the age of 18, they could come and get
Got it.
meals.
Do they have, again, I haven't seen one in process. do they have to be in the car, or how do they prove, or do they have to show proof, or what?
No, the kids don't have to be in the car. They, the parent could just pull up and she would just say to the ladies, 3 kids. And the ladies would give them enough meal for the 3 kids.
Okay,
The kids did not have to be present,
so it's on an honor system then. So
basically.
actually, people who aren't parents could pull up there and
Mhm.
say, I have 4 kids and get 4 meals.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it probably didn't happen as much as we think, but it could have happened.
Yeah, it could have. Normally, if there was a large amount, they would ask the schools that the children go to. But it was very rare. I have to say that the ladies got to know these people when they were coming through. And they were getting regulars to where they pretty much knew everybody by the, couple months in, and they had a regular group.
Got it. But could a parent also, because we do have schools that are close to each other,
Mhm.
like Santee and Kennedy and Stonegate, could a parent go to one school, then the next, and then the next during the distribution period and not be recognized? And
They could, they
It's a lot of
could do
meals.
that. Hopefully they don't, but it is
Yeah.
a possibility.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, probably 99% of the time, it's probably run, under the great honor system.
Exactly. It's on the honor system and, we're hoping that didn't happen. It may have. I don't think it did though.
And just to make it easier, right, not to have the students go to their home school, such as the middle schools or CCA that gets students from all over the place. We made it easy for them to go to any of the schools, right? So if you're a Silverdale student, or you live by Hellier, you just go to Hellier. And so part of, Lori and her team was to be strategic about, especially when we consolidated schools, to look at how many meals were being distributed at particular sites. Was there a school close to them? And so, trying to be as responsive to the needs of the community as we could.
So we didn't do the distribution at every school.
There was a time when we did, but then we started consolidating at a certain point, depending on the numbers.
Because we do have some schools that are so close to each other that you could pretty much walk to each one, even like Meadows, Kennedy, Santee, and even Stonegate. They're within a quarter mile of my home.
Especially when it was during a break. We didn't serve at all schools. So
Correct.
we strategically looked at where the highest distribution numbers, and then, location, so that they would be spread out through the district. So those were things that Lori and her team really thought about, and the staffing, right? Because during vacation, we normally don't have staff. We don't serve, but these are different times. And so
Right.
they've been serving during the breaks as well.
Did we also give meals out to the parents of our charter school students as well?
Yes, we did.
Because I don't know if the charter schools had this going in place. Did they have this in place?
The charter schools that we serve, HIP and Cornerstone, were coming over to Kennedy and Los Arboles.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So that increased the meal served as well, because I know in your report, you included the charter schools.
Yes, because we count those that we serve, because we feed them on a normal day.
Right. Well, they're part of our district too.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
In terms of, students, so. Not ADA money though, but, okay, that's it. Thank you very much. Good report.
Thank you.
I did just have, so in terms of the registration forms, I know there was a big initiative before COVID to get are those no longer required then?
The applications for
Yeah,
free
the
reduced lunches.
applications.
So those are no longer required, but because of the LCAP funding, it's called an education benefit form that's taking place of the application that needs to be filled out and
So we'll still
completed.
get our unduplicated
Yes,
count for that purposes, but not for the purposes of
free and reduced
nutrition.
lunch.
Okay.
Correct. And that's one of the things that we're also sort of, it's new. And so we're trying to encourage, just like we did before, right? One, for them to be able to be eligible for meals. But now that it's free, the messaging is different, right? It's not for them to get meals, but for making sure that the district gets the funding that it deserves. by counting all, as you know, the maximum number of unduplicated students. So the effort is still there, but it's a different approach.
And then the other question, so I know, that it's been incredible that meals have been able to be served during breaks as well. Is that something that's, are we going to be able to continue to do that?
We are. We just got done feeding for the whole week of Thanksgiving for the one Monday. And I was just gathering volunteers to help out on I think it's December 20th and I think the 27th, the Monday, and then January 3rd that we're going to be feeding. And we'll be able to feed them breakfast, lunch, and supper and snack, all 4 meals during the December break. So yeah.
Really great to hear. Those are my main questions. Thank you so much for the presentation, and to all of our child nutrition service staff.
I did have a real short answer question. Are meals gluten-free?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, if requested.
Yes, if it's requested, it is
Yes.
available.
Got it. Okay.
And then if a student has specific dietary restrictions, are there options for them?
Yes, we can meet, as long as if they can bring a doctor's note with whatever their restrictions are, we can meet their restrictions.
What about faith-based restrictions?
Faith-based, we haven't really had.
I mean, we can.
We would accommodate it,
yeah.
but right now I don't think we've had anybody that do that, but we would accommodate anybody that, for whatever reason. We have a lot of vegetarians that come through the lines and things, but I've never had that, but we would accommodate anybody for whatever their needs are.
Good to know. Well, thank you, Lori, Elaine, and Martha. We really appreciate all the efforts.
Yeah, thank you for letting us, yeah, thank you.
Have a good evening.
I'm sorry? Oh. Yeah.
Springtime, yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Let's have a good voice to be coming over there.
All right, we will now go to item 6.04, the executive summary, the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant. We have Assistant Superintendent Black with us.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Cruz. This evening, I'm presenting an information item on our Franklin-McKinley proposed Educator Effectiveness Block Grant. It's also attached to a public hearing. So I have 2 computers going, hold on. Okay, so the 2021 Budget Act included $1.5 billion of one-time money. And they called this money the Educator Effectiveness Block Grant, or you sometimes hear EEBG. The grant provides funds to county offices, charter schools, school districts, and to provide specific professional learning to promote educator equity, quality, and effectiveness. And we can use the block grant over a 5-year fiscal period. We're not required to, spend funding every 5 years, but we do have that block of time in order to spend the funding. And there's a specific formula that the state used in order to determine how much funding we would be eligible for. And they looked at certificated and classified fundings of past years in order to determine our full allocation. And we'll receive our first allocation of funding, I believe, in January. Our specific allocation is $1,660,062. So it's a very specific amount. And so the way that we can allocate that money, I'm going to talk about what the targeted areas we have identified, but there's essentially, and you'll see in the executive summary, there's 10 potential areas that we could address and utilize this funding for. We're not required to use all 10 of the areas, and they really encourage us to continue to align it with our LCAP or ELO grants or other grant money or block grant money that we've received and we've made goals or commitments to. And that's how we approached this particular block grant. And so we zoned in on 4 focus areas. So the 4 focus areas we're looking at are number 4, social emotional learning, which aligns to our goals in the LCAP, number 2. Number 7, which is language acquisition, so English language learners and our dual immersion program, which is in goal 1 of our LCAP. And then area 9, which is ethnic studies. The secondary schools are required to actually develop an ethnic studies course in 7th and 8th grade. But we also want to expand to look at how we can integrate ethnic studies within our elementary schools as well. So that was also a targeted area for us. So you'll see specific dollar amounts in the dollars that we use to determine, how do we allocate the money in each of those areas. We looked at a 3-year plan, and then we looked at would we need teacher release days? Do we need to pay them hourly? Are we going to need to contract the service? So in number 4, we already have contracted services that we want to continue to commit to and expand on. So specifically, we're right now involved in our implicit bias training, but we're really having discussions and considering how can we move that to the next level. And so that's going to require funding and support from our partners, as well as providing release time or our release time for our teachers. So we wanted to make sure that we allocated a chunk of money to continue to support our efforts in social emotional learning. We also added that need for training that's going to require for our EduClimber and our SEL tools to administer and track and progress monitor our student data. Number 7 is where you'll see the bulk of our funding that we've allocated, and that's for our EL program. So overwhelmingly, we're hearing from stakeholders and staff that there needs to be additional support in the area of integrated and designated ELD programs, as well as continue to expand and support the training in our dual immersion programs. So we allocated a chunk of money for contract services that are going to be required for that and we're estimating it to roll out not this school year, but the next school year, so fall 2022, looking at contract and then release days for our teachers. And then finally, our focus area 9, like I mentioned before, looking at actually spending specific time around developing the units and the course that are going to be attached to ethnic studies at 7th and 8th grade. That's going to take time, teacher time. So we wanted to allocate a chunk of hourly time designated for that, probably targeting over the summers over the next 3 years and paying for teacher release time during the school year if we get to a place of having subs again. So that's something that we're also carving out for our 3-year plan. This slide actually looks a little bit different than the one in your packet. I added number 2 because there was a question about the accountability. So basically the first step in this block grant is that we're required to present our plan to the board, which is what I'm doing this evening, to talk about how we'd like to use the funding for the block grant. And then following, so December 14th is our next meeting, I'll break the final plan based on any feedback that you provide this evening or guidance, make update to the draft or proposed plan that I have attached in the agenda today, and then bring it back for action and vote on the 14th. And in terms of accountability, we're required to report to the state, the CDE annually. And we have to report both on our financials as well as documented efforts around how we spent the money. And that's due at the end of September of every year. And then at the very end, we have to do a final expenditure report on how we utilize the funds, provide specific details around how many teachers we served, specific data connected to our goals and actions. And then if we don't utilize all the funding, we have to return it. So I think that's, oh yeah. And then I just have attached our block grant that's a little more detailed. And again, how we decided on those 3 areas is really tied specifically to our already ongoing efforts around MTSS and our LCAP goals. We really want to stay true to our focus and continue to provide ongoing support in terms of finances and resources. And then if you have any questions.
Thank you, Amy. Board members, any questions or comments? Dr. Rodriguez?
Well, I just have a comment. I thank you, and I really appreciate the focus area 9 where you're talking about is integrating with the core curriculum from TK to 6 of ethnic studies. I think that will just help prepare the students when they get to the 7th and 8th grade levels where there is an established curriculum as well. Are you going to be, I do have a question about that. Are there already some integrations in place between those TK through 6 that we can duplicate here? Or do you know of any other districts that are using that already?
Not so much at the elementary level. I mean, typically you look at it in terms of just their core library and way that we're expanding exposure to rich literature. And there's a lot of flexibility in elementary around read alouds and way that you can tie it into SEL and really exposing students to, like, we're just talking about cultural relevance and then looking at specific ethnic lessons. I know that right now our director of CNI is starting an ethnic studies group. She's already launched it this year to start that dialogue. And she is including elementary in that. And that's something that they're very much interested in, looking at ways that they can integrate it within their already existing curriculum to make it relevant and connect for kids.
Okay, because I remember last spring, one of our principals, the one at Franklin, she, on Read Across America Day, the theme of that day for all the readers, which was all virtual, was diversity.
Mhm.
So I purchased 2 books and I actually donated them after reading them to the students. I can't remember what grade level it was, but it was through this earlier than the 6th grade. So I mean that you know, maybe getting input from our principals on that, or even the teachers, might be good to leverage in terms of getting more resources.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Vice President Tran?
So in terms of this grant, it's huge in the sense that we never had this specific funding for professional development before, right? So this is like the first time the state's giving us such a big pocket of money.
I mean, they give us money all the time that we allocate, obviously through our LCAP. There's money that we set aside. The federal government also requires under Title I, Title II, 3, and 4 to set aside money specifically for professional development. This is just a one-time shot in the arm of additional funds that we can leverage on top of what we normally get, specifically, you know, to address the impact that COVID has had. So that's sort of the intent of this particular one-time money.
Right. So we always had like a budget allocated to professional development, but this is an extra pocket of money. That's perfect. I mean, that's always great to have. So is there flexibility in the way we use our money every year, or does it have to be set?
I mean, typically, I mean, my experience in past grants that we've written there, I mean, you set a plan and they ask you to stay pretty, you know, within the parameters of the plan, but there's flexibility in terms of like where you might shift the money within that goal. So as long as we stay true to the 3 focus areas, if we decide like our contract was more than kind of what, because I don't have to submit like, oh, I'm spending X amount of dollars on subs or X amount of dollars. That's why it's lumpy like that in the presentation. It's like, this is what I'm estimating to spend on this particular goal. So then how we decide to spend it, whether it's contract subs, material, you know, like for the professional development, because you know, materials are going to be needed for teachers to conduct the PD, then that's, you know, how we can use the money. So we do have flexibility within our focus area.
It's what I'm seeing this as is like a $1.5 million grant over the course of 5 years, right? So,
Yeah, and we're anticipating spending it in 3.
and
But if something happens like COVID, right? Like we can't anticipate what's going to happen in 5 years from now. So that's why we were also kind of trying to be realistic of, okay, like if we were going to use the money in 3, and if we can't complete it in 3, we still have the 2 additional years to make sure that we utilize the funds, because we never want to be in a position where we have to return funding that we receive.
No, of course. I mean, is there any restriction for us not to use it all this year? I'm not saying that we should, but I'm just.
Technically, we could. Yeah, I mean, yes, we could use it in 1 year. There's no limitations.
I would just say capacity to,
Yeah.
you know, it does take a lot of effort to spend money. People don't understand that it actually is work to spend funds. And so, you know, as we presented our ELO in June, and if you remember, you know, we set a 3-year plan and how we braided some of the funds would end sooner than others. And so our plan that we presented to the board was that we wanted to actually have a 3-year plan so that we would be able to sustain the work, right, beyond because a lot of it is one-time monies, right? And so utilizing and braiding all of this together so that we have a cohesive 3-year plan. This is one of the reasons why, you know, we're trying to stay within our ELO or LCAP, because those are plans and goals and actions that have been fully vetted through our stakeholders, right? Our parents, our staff. And so, you know, not deviating completely off just because we got this infusion of dollars, but staying true to the things that we have already set in motion. You know, going back to the resolution that board president brought forward in terms of our ethnic studies and moving that agenda forward. And so, you know, we're trying to be very, very strategic around that, because before you know it, we will be doing 100 different things. And that's not, you know, sustainable.
It's definitely not one, but I think this is the period, and I'm really glad to see these pockets of money come into our school district, at least this year and this past year. I see that as such a great big opportunity for us to start innovating on new ideas, new platforms, and to really change the platform of what the public school is, right? And even talking about just our policies and knowing how old and outdated they are, right? And how much effort it takes to change that. We don't need to follow that kind of stigma into our school districts and how we teach our kids. So hopefully with, you know, more professional development, educator effectiveness, we'll see changes for you know, the way we teach our kids. Absolutely. Positive changes. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I did have a quick, so in terms of and I did look at the actual plan attachment as well. So the decisions in terms of how the money specifically will be spent, will the board be updated on that as well? Is that what the September 30th date is?
I mean, it makes sense to me, since we'll be submitting it, you know, every September. I could give you an update. I mean, even prior to September 30th. I mean, I'm happy to give an update whenever you know, are wanting. I mean, usually that's a good time because we'll have hopefully had summer work that was completed, and I can give you an update of, you know, where we're at and then where we're intending to go that school year in the fall, because I'll have to do my first reporting in September of 2022. So, I mean, it makes sense, kind of that natural, like, fall checkpoint to let you guys know where we are.
And then in addition to the expenditures, the data points that are going to be collected, what are those data points?
You know, I really anticipate it being attached to teacher participation and survey, because it's really the direct impact of how many teachers are we serving, you know, how many hours of training are we providing, and in what specific category, are there any certifications that come within that? And then what the implementation is. So it's really kind of that raw data piece is going to be the actual number of people and hours. And then I'd be interested to also, we always collect surveys from teachers following professional development. And I can also report on how they feel like the value of the professional development, what they feel they need is going well, and what they need more of, because we really always want to be in service of the needs of our teachers. So I want to make sure that we're being responsive towards that over time. And if they're feeling like they need an extension or additional training in a particular area, then we can provide that. Do you have additional data that you would like?
Well, that answered my question. I was just looking to see, you know, I want us to make sure we're being mindful of like how we're evaluating the effectiveness of this. I mean, it's called the Educator Effectiveness Plan.
Absolutely.
So how are we evaluating its effectiveness from the perspective of our educators or our staff who are actually trying to implement
And
these?
I think like especially in category, is it category 7 in ELD? I mean, we're actually going to have student data that we can connect to it. If we could even cross-analyze, or, teachers that are receiving specific targeted intensive ELD training, how is that impacting student results in their classroom? So that, I mean, that would take over time, right? So, but that's something that we can collect over, and that's something we collect anyways in terms of our, our ELD data. But if we're able to identify the teachers that are participating, and are we seeing an increase in their reclassification rate, I think that that would be really powerful. So that's something that we can.
And is that
definitely-
something that's going to be implemented TK through 8?
Say
Or
that
is it
again?
in terms of the ELD specific focus, is that TK through 8 or is it?
Yes, it has to be, yeah.
And other than that, I'm really excited about these focus areas. I think these are areas that, the board has taken, action on in terms of trying to prioritize. And I really think it's in alignment with, it's not just a new focus that we picked out of a hat, but things that we already are committed to doing the work for in our districts. So I'm really excited to see this, the allocated funds behind those decisions to see us, to help us move forward as well. So thank you, Amy.
Yeah, and if I could just add also, you mentioned TK through 8, and it just started thinking one of the other reasons why, again, this is the focus and alignment is with our significant disproportionality, right? And how important it is for us to start in TK. And part of the significant disproportionality plan is around ELD language development and the support early on, so as to not, have too many students that are needing more intensive services later on. So again, just trying to reiterate, we're trying to align and braid everything together so that it at least feels cohesive and the data and everything that we're doing is aligned, so that we are, if we're already doing something, how do we actually support it with the funds, right? Because in some cases we have some plans that are not funded. And so in this case, these are where the funds are coming in and really supporting the efforts.
Thank you, Amy. So this will be coming to the board next meeting for approval.
Correct. This is only the public hearing, and so the final plan will be coming to the board on, and because we have to submit it to the state before the end of the month, correct?
All right, so with that, we will move to item 7, our consent items under 25,000. Members of the public may address the board on consent items before the board's consideration of the items. In accordance with board bylaws 9323, individual remarks will be limited to 3 minutes each unless otherwise stipulated. Are there any public comments that were submitted for items 7, 8, or 9? Okay, board members, are there any consent items in 7, 8, or 9 that you would like to pull? Hearing none, I will accept a motion for consent items under 25,000.
Move to approve consent items 7.01 to 7.09.
Second.
Items 7.01 through 7.09 have been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. That motion passes. We will now go to items over 25,000.
Move to approve consent items 8.01 through 8.06.
Second.
Items 8.01 through 8.06 have been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. We will now go to item 9, construction items.
Move to approve consent items 9.01 and 9.10.
Second.
Items 9.01 through items 9.10 have been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes unanimously. We will now go to item 10, action items. Item 10.01, the personnel report.
Madam President, I move that the personnel report be approved as submitted, and that A, the employment for the following employee be approved: Juanita noon duty at Kennedy, effective 11/16/21. B, the resignation for the following employees be approved. Julia Lopez, EIT at Los Arbos, effective 11/30/21. Erica Santiago Garcia, bus driver, effective 10/19/21. And Anna Perez, bus driver, transportation, effective 11/29/21.
Second.
Right, the personal addendum has been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. That motion passes. We will now go to item 10.02, the October 26th board meeting minutes. Board members, hopefully you've had a chance to review those minutes, and I will accept a motion when you're ready.
President, I move to approve the October 26, 2021 minutes.
Second.
All right, the October 26th board meeting minutes have been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye. That motion passes. We will now go to item 10.03, reporting on delegating authority to take the necessary action to protect students and staff from the spread of coronavirus. Superintendent Cruz?
Yes, thank you. I have not taken any action from this designation. I do want to give the board an update in regards to some of the efforts that we are still taking to protect our students and our staff and our community. So now we have daily testing here at the district office every morning from 8 to 12 o'clock, and then every afternoon from 3 to 5. And that is to accommodate not only staff, but also when there's a positive case in exposure at a school, families are directed to the district office to as one of the options. You know, we don't necessarily mandate that they come and get tested with us, but it's easy and accessible to our families. And they come here, they get tested, and then within 48 to 72 hours, they get their results back. And that's again to help speed the process and getting our students back into in person. If they get 2 negative tests within the first 7 days, then they can come back and shorten their quarantine time. We're also testing at the school sites, pool testing. We have had some challenges in getting families to sign up, but the schools have done a lot of outreach, and we have increased significantly the number of students that are signing up for the pool testing at our schools. Initially, if you recall, we were doing only 4th through 8th grade. We have now expanded that TK through 8th grade. And so the numbers have increased. And again, that's another just layer of protection in terms of identifying those that may be positive but asymptomatic. We are scheduled to test our students and staff or make it available on January 3rd, the week of January 3rd. If you the schools are closed for 3 weeks, and so with the potential travel, the gatherings, and things of that nature, we felt that it was prudent for us to have testing available all that week throughout the district, and making it available for staff and students to get tested prior to the start of school on January 10th is when we come back after the 3-day break. So all those are different measures that we're working on to safeguard the safety of our staff and our students. We're continuing with the safety measures that have been in place. We are allowing for the submission of field trips, local field trips, starting in January, and those are going to be assessed and based on the benefit of the field trip, and then also what risks are involved in potential exposures. And we'll balance those two and start to have our students and staff participate in field trips as much as we can. We are also going to be engaging in testing with our student athletes as they're participating in the league participation as well. So again, as much as we can to screen, right? Testing is about screening and then responding and shortening the period that students would be at home if they're not positive. It's been our goal. We are continuing to work with the county and whenever possible, offering our school sites as vaccination sites to, again, make it easy for families to access the vaccine as well. That's all I have for you at this time. If there are any questions, I'll answer.
Thank you, Superintendent Cruz. Board members, any questions? We will now go to item 10.04, the disclosure of collective bargaining agreement with Classified School Employees Association, CSEA.
Jason, you're still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. In accordance with AB 1200 and AB 2756, the district must disclose any financial impact a bargaining agreement change will have on a district's budget. Disclosure before you tonight is for Classified School Employee Association, Chapter 502. As you know, the district has a contract or had a contract effective from July 1, 2018 to June 30, 2021, which included a formula that stipulated the annual increase for CSEA members. Until a new contract can be settled between the district and CSEA, we have agreed to use the same formula for calculating the raise in fiscal year 21-22. The financial impact for the raise based on the formula within the contract is $193,000. Most of that is going to be paid out of the general fund, but a portion is also paid out of food services as well as bond funds. Typically, we cannot give this disclosure to the Santa Clara County Office of Education until the board has approved it, but we did send them a draft of the disclosure. And because of that, they sent us their letter for the disclosure, and that has been attached to the agenda item for tonight. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the disclosure for the collective bargaining agreement with CSEA. At this point, I will open up to any questions you may have.
Board members, any questions or comments on this item? Thank you, Jason.
Move to approve the disclosure of collective bargaining agreement.
Second.
Item 10.04, the disclosure of the collective bargaining agreement with CSEA has been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. That motion passes. Right, we will go to item 10.05, Resolution 2021-38, the declaration of an emergency for fire damage at Alpha Cornerstone Academy pursuant to Public Contract Code Sections 22035 and 22050.
Yep. So tonight, this resolution will allow the district to get into contracts with various companies that do not have to follow the normal California Public Contract Code, because resolution is going to designate the fire damage at Kennedy School site an emergency. As you know, on October 15th, 2021, there was vandalism at the site in which the administrative office was damaged due to a fire that was started by an unknown person to the district. So this will allow us to expedite the process to repair the damage to the administrative office building that is used by Alpha Cornerstone. So at this point, I'll open it up to any questions. But it is the district's recommendation that the resolution 2021-38 be approved by the board to allow us to expedite the repairs of the administrative office.
Board members, any questions or comments on the resolution? No, accept the motion.
Move to approve action item 10.05.
Great.
Second.
Item 10.05 has been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. That motion passes. Thank you, Jason. Right, we will go to item 10.06, the 2021 to 2022 CSEA salary increase. Superintendent?
21-22. For the district, CSEA Chapter 502. Retroactive July 1st, 2021 of the academic school year. Recommended that the Board of Education approve salary increase.
Board members, any questions or comments? Accept the motion when we're ready.
Move to approve the salary increase for CSEA.
Second.
The item 10.06, the 2021-2022 CSEA salary increase has been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. Thank you, Annette. We will now go to item 10.07, Resolution 2021-39, declaring December 6th through 10th Inclusive Schools Week. So this is an annual resolution that we bring forward. It's focused on celebrating the progress our schools have made, celebrating our diverse student population, in all the ways that we are diverse, which is we're really fortunate to be able to work and live and work with students in this community. It's and so being able to recognize that and give students and parents and educators opportunity to highlight that is something we look forward to doing. Questions or comments? Right, I move that we approve Resolution 2021-39, declaring December 6th through 10th Inclusive Schools Week.
Second.
Right, item 10.07 has been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. We will now go to item 10.08, the 2021 through 2022 Professional Services Agreement for Kathleen Duarte.
The attached professional services agreement for Kathleen Duarte, interim principal at Shirakawa School of Service from November 29, 2021 through June 17, 2022.
Members, are there questions or comments on this item? A smooth transition for Shirakawa.
Move to approve action item 10.08.
Second.
Item 10.08 has been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And that motion passes. We will now go to item 10.09, the 2021-2022 Professional Services Agreement for Felton Owens.
Following professional services agreement for Felton Owens, interim college being brought for service from 9/21 through April 15.
Any questions or comments on this item?
Madam President, I move to approve item 10.09 as recommended.
Second.
Item 10.09 has been moved and seconded for approval. All those in favor, please say aye. That motion passes. We will now go to item 10.10, Resolution 2021-40, Board Compensation for a Missed Meeting for President of Silberta.
And Board President, actually, as I sat here and I looked at all three of the next agenda items, I don't believe it is necessary to take action on these because there was actually no November 9th board meeting as there was no quorum. So you didn't miss a meeting because there was no meeting. So all three of those, I don't believe the board is necessary for any action.
Otherwise, we would all need to have one.
Thank you, Superintendent Cruz. So we'll go ahead and remove or table indefinitely items 10.10, 10.11, and 10.12.
Good, I was gonna vote no on those. I'm kidding.
Remember that, Rudy. All right, we will go to item 11, communications from the superintendent. Superintendent Cruz?
Yes, I hope that everybody had some time to rest and be with friends and family over the last week. We're certainly looking forward to 3 more weeks of instruction and then there'll be another 3 weeks a break for the students, not for the parents. The parents are fully in charge for those 3 weeks. But yeah, just being, just grateful for the time and certainly looking forward to the additional time that we can take with family and friends as the season progresses. We did have our principals on the 22nd come in and have what we call the data chats. And so they presented their data, they presented their action plans that resulted from their data analysis. We'll be, following up with them on a lot of some of the things that came up during the data chats, but very hopeful for the things that are happening out at our schools and the support that they're providing to our students. And certainly we will be bringing to the board some in the next couple of meetings, some presentations around, sort of the data that we have, that are shown, not just academic data, but the data that we've brought to you over the last 18 months in regards to referrals and services and things like that, that sort of tell a much better story of the incredible work that our staff are doing out there day in, day out and supporting our families. You had a little bit of that today with our child nutrition services. It's been a real team effort over the last 18 months and working together to support our families. On Wednesday, I will be speaking at the award ceremony over at Franklin in the morning. They'll be their first in-person recognition of students. So they've invited me to speak to the students at their assembly. And just letting you know that we are about to push the button on the first grade college savings account. They have been set up. We've tested some of them with some of our staff that have first graders. So as sort of how it looks, they're giving us feedback in terms of how easy, how difficult it was. And so we're very, very close to the official pushing of the button where it creates all the accounts and then communicates that with all the families. And we will start setting up some financial literacy days where we'll be able to kind of walk them through, the process and how they will be able to add additional funds to it and all that. So looking forward to, I know that we launched it, but it's coming to a point where, it's our families are going to have the ability to start adding to that initial $50 deposit. No other comments.
Thank you, Superintendent Cruz. We will now go to item 12, communications from the Board of Education. We'll start with item 12.01, board member reports. Rodriguez.
Okay, speaking of the College in My Future, I did attend the launch at Meadows the day after our last board meeting, and it was very nice, very well done. We had a lot of our stakeholders there who were partnering with us, and it went very smooth. And watching the students watching their faces when they heard they were getting $50 in the savings account was priceless, because they were all excited to have $50 in their savings account for college. So it was very nice. And then the following week, I did attend one of the implicit bias training sessions, and it was very well done. Our consultants the facilitators that conducted the training did a great job, and I did send a follow-up question to one of them, and have waiting to hear back. She's probably a little bit busy with the holidays. But it was very well done. And I do encourage, I know that we'll probably be having more, and I do encourage all the board members to consider attending if your workday will allow you to attend, because it is an all day. It's from 8 to 3 or 8:30 to 3 p.m. and it does go almost the entire time. So if your work needs allow you, your work schedule allows you to attend, I would recommend attending, because it's very nicely done. And it's also nice to see the district staff, see board members attend these as well, to learn about the situations that could occur in our district. And that's it.
Thank you, Clerk Rodriguez. Board Member Martinez?
Thank you. I just wanted to kind of acknowledge the fact that here we are in end of November and we just got past the Thanksgiving holiday, and I just wanted to say thank you to all the staff members and all the folks that are out there, the families, fellow board members. You know, it's a time of reflection, and it's good when you have a moment to think about where we are now and where we've been over the last 2 years, and you know, allow folks as much forgiveness and leeway as you can, because I'm sure everybody's doing their best right now. And, you know, it's hard, you know, when there's some empty chairs in our family room, and also just with our coworkers, just giving folks the ability to have some understanding, because, you know, it's been tough. And yet at the same time, I just want to say that we've done a fabulous job, you know, in terms of getting us this far. And, you know, we have more work ahead, and looking forward to 2022.
Thank you, Board Member Martinez. Vice President Tran?
I want to echo the same things that Manuel said.
Well, definitely those thoughts, just feeling very thankful for all of the collaboration, all the efforts at every board meeting. It's like hearing all the updates and knowing, you know, we had parent-teacher conferences, many of them right before Thanksgiving break. And so just knowing it takes a true team effort to do the work that we do, and to get to, you know, support the students that we do. It really goes a long ways. I also had the opportunity to attend our latest Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Committee meeting. That committee is just doing such incredible work. We have a new student and parent joining us, so hopefully the board will be able to take some action to approve them as well at coming meetings, working on a framework. And then also just wanted to share, I got my COVID booster. So everyone actually 18 and over is eligible for your COVID booster, as well as the 5 to 11 age group. So strongly encourage everyone to take advantage of this and help us protect our community. There was a great setup at the Tully Fairgrounds. And so if you have kids, it was really a really fun setup for them. So encourage everyone to do that. All right, so with that, we'll go to item 12.02, agenda item requests. Are there any additional agenda item requests at this time? Hearing none, we'll go to item 13, future business. There is none at this time. We'll go to 14, future meeting dates. We have item 14.01 is our December 14th board meeting, followed by 14.02, our January 11th, 2022. Wow, already right there, 2022 board meeting. Our item 14.03, January 25th board meeting. We will go to item 15, closed session. We are not returning to closed session at this time, so we are at item 16, adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
All right, the motion has been made to adjourn and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that motion passes. We are now adjourned at 8:24 p.m. Thank you, everyone.